Hello, it's good to be with you tonight. Let's get into God's word together. Let's agree in prayer. Well, Father, in the name of the Lord Jesus, we will lend our spirits to the Spirit of the living God within us, that out through the vessel of our being, you pour forth your wisdom with mighty clarity. Father, we do thank you for we have wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of that Spirit that you've so richly given to us in redemption. Father, we believe and we receive that the burden of ignorance is dematerialized to your glory. And everybody says, Amen. Okay, well, excellent. It's good to be with us tonight. Let us get together into the continuation of our studies. Right. So come with me if you can to John and well, First Corinthians and chapter 12. First Corinthians and chapter 12. Look at what it says in verse 1. Now, concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I will not have you ignorant. Okay, so that is First Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 1. So, brethren is from a word that means that there are people that have a commonality, right, of parents, right? So, commonality of parents, that means they come from the same origin. Yeah, so from the same womb. Okay, from the same origin, you can say from the same family. So from the same family or the same tribe, so there's a commonality. Yes, so from the same family. So when it says in First Corinthians 12:1, now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren. So it wants is talking to people that have a commonality. Then it says it's speaking concerning spiritual. Now the word spiritual, right, has to do with that which is of or pertaining to the spirit. So it is that which is pertaining to the spirit. So Paul is saying concerning things of the spirit, right? So concerning things of the spirit, right? I don't want the saints, okay, to be ignorant, right? So it doesn't want the saints to be ignorant. Now follow me very closely. Now he then says in because remember the word brethren means a commonality. So what is common to all the believers? So again, what is the commonality? Well, it says in look at verse 2 or verse 3. It says in First Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 3. Verse 2 is about their past, what they were. Then verse 3 then says, wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaking by the Spirit of God. So we see something to do with the Spirit of God, right? The Spirit of God. Yeah. Now come down with me in that First Corinthians and chapter 12. Yeah, and let's look again at verse 7. But the manifestation of the Spirit, right, is given, right, to every man. Can you see? So, what is given to every man, right? It says the manifestation, okay, the manifestation of the Spirit. So, to manifest there, it means to show, right, something clearly, right, to shine the light on something. Yeah, to shine the light on something. In other words, the spotlight of the Spirit, right? So when it says the manifestation of the Spirit, the shining of the light, yeah, of the Spirit, if we wanted to know where the Spirit is, right, it says the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man. So the Spirit, right, is given. Okay, and we now see its manifestation, right, is to every man, which will mean brethren. You see now? So it says the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man. So every saint, okay, has the manifestation, okay, of the Spirit, which means you can uncover. So you can uncover to locate the Spirit, right, inside every believer. Okay, so firstly, then, the Spirit will be known in that the Spirit will be located in or with the believer. The manifestation of the Spirit, the uncovering, the shining of the light. So, in other words, if we wanted to find where the Spirit is, you understand? If we wanted to find where the Spirit is, we locate the Spirit in every man. Who is the every man? Brethren. Okay, so what is it that is given to every man? It is the Spirit. So the Spirit of God has been given to every single man. Which man? Right? When it says to every man, so which man is that? Well, from First Corinthians and chapter 12 and verse 1. So if you check from verse 1, it is the brethren, right? So in other words, the brethren, okay, so the brethren, they have the Spirit. So the brethren have the Spirit. So the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man. Now, why did the God give the Spirit to every man? Look at it again. So, who gave the manifestation of the Spirit? So who gave this manifestation? So, this showing up, this making clear, right? So, who gave the manifestation of the Spirit? Well, come with me to Second Corinthians and chapter 1. Let's go together. Second Corinthians and chapter 1, and I'm going to go all the way to verse 21. Now he which established us with you in Christ and has anointed us is God. So we see in verse 21, God has anointed us. Let's read on. It then says in verse 22, who hath also sealed us. So God who anointed us. So it's now said that God sealed us. So God sealed us, or God anointed us. So who also has sealed us and given the earnest of the Spirit. So instead of talking about manifestation, it talks about earnest. So he also gave us, right, the earnest of the Spirit. The earnest of the Spirit. So what did God do? Well, God gave us the Spirit. Okay, so what God gave to every believer is the Spirit, right? So he gave the Spirit where? In our hearts. So God has already given us, right, in Second Corinthians 1:21, God has given us the Spirit in our hearts. So that makes us, right? So that makes us where you find the Spirit. So that's where you find the Spirit, hence the manifestation of the Spirit, the showing up, right? So where the Spirit is seen, made clear. So the manifestation, or to make seen. So to see, to make clear. So the making seen of the Spirit, yeah, is in the saints, right? Is in the saints. Now, so where is the Spirit of God? It's in the believer. We now go back to First Corinthians and chapter 12 and verse 7. What does it say in verse 7? In First Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 7, it says, and I read, but the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man. Who is the every man? The believer, to profit withal, right? To profit withal. So the saint has the Spirit for the profit of everybody. One more time. So the saint has the Spirit of God. Okay. Why? For the profit. Yeah. For the profit or advantage or benefit. Yeah. So it's for the profit or for the advantage or for the benefit of others. You see now, for the benefit of others. Now, so in other words, if the Spirit is in the saint, that Spirit is there for the purpose that benefit is to them flow from the saints unto others. So when we uncover or locate the Spirit inside every believer, it is for one purpose, right? So the Spirit inside every believer is for the purpose, right, of bringing benefits to others. Yeah. So it's for the purpose of, well, bringing benefit, right, to others. That's important. Yeah. We are bringing benefit to others. The manifestation. So that manifestation, firstly, talks about the presence, the appearing of the Spirit in the saint. Then, because the Spirit is in the saint, then there will be consequences of the Spirit in the saint. You understand? There will now be consequences. But firstly, the presence, then secondly, the consequence of the presence. Now, what will we find with the Spirit? Go to verse 4, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4. Now, there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. So remember, we have the manifestation of the Spirit, or the appearing, or the locating, right, of the Spirit in the saint. It now says that that same Spirit, so the same Spirit, right, is associated with diversity, right? That is variety. Is associated with diversity, or a myriad, or a differences or variety. Okay, so a variety of what? Variety of gifts. Again, so what does the saint have? Well, so the saint has the Spirit, or the manifestation of the Spirit. So the saint has the Spirit, and in the Spirit, the gifts. Is that clear? So the saint has the Spirit, and in the Spirit, the gifts, right? The abilities. Yeah, we've said is the word charisma, the abilities. So if we meet a believer, what will we meet? We will find that the believer has the manifestation of the Spirit. That Spirit is given once. Then from that Spirit, there is the gifts available to be expressed. The expression of the gift is many times. The locating of the Spirit in the saint is once. So the Spirit is in the saint once and forever. Yeah. So the Spirit is permanently, okay, in the saint, right? However, the abilities are expressed. Yeah, they are expressed continually. Yeah. So why? So that others will benefit, for the profit of all. See, so that others will benefit. Let me say one more time. Right? So that others will get benefit. That is what we have just learned. Now, let's go one more step tonight. Okay? We're going to go one more step tonight. Firstly, I want you to see something in John, or look at 1 Corinthians 13. 1 Corinthians and chapter 13. Look at what it says in 1 Corinthians and chapter 13. What is he talking about? Look at that. 1 Corinthians 13, we're going to go to verse 3. 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 3. Well, let's go one more time. Verse 1. Yeah, we're going to go from verse 1. I'm going to go rapidly so that we can get the point. Verse 1 says, though I speak with the tongues of men. Well, so number one, it means the saint has the tongues, right, of men. One, then the saint speaks. Well, so what does that mean? That means the saint uses. Yeah. So the saint uses the ability of tongues. So if I say, what does the saint have in 1 Corinthians 13:1? The saint has the ability, the vocal ability called tongues. Now, let's go to verse 2 very quickly. So if you go to verse 2, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 2. Look what verse 2 says. And though I have the gift of prophecy. Can you see now? So what does the saint has? He has the gift of prophecy. Yes, he has the ability. So he has the ability of prophecy. Okay. What did he have in verse 1? He has the ability of tongues. Okay. So he had the ability of tongues in verse 1. Now in verse 2, the ability of prophecy. Yeah. And it says, we can go on and on. Look at verse 3, right? In verse 3, First Corinthians 13 and verse 3. It now says, let's read it together. First Corinthians 13:3. What does it say in 13:3? And though I bestow all my goods, hold on. So my goods, yes, so my goods will be what I have. Okay, so my goods will be the resources. Okay, the resources with me. Okay, so what are my goods? So what are my goods? Well, from verse 1, right? My goods, yeah, from verse 1, my goods will refer to what? It will refer to the ability of tongues. Can you see that? So my goods will refer to the ability of tongues. From verse 2, what are my goods? My goods will refer to the ability of prophecy. If I look at verse 2, it will be the ability of prophecy. Okay, let's look at it one more time. So there's the ability of tongues, then the ability of prophecy. So when Paul says, if I bestow my goods, he's simply saying, if I make use of the abilities. So to bestow, right, my goods, okay, it means to use the abilities. Is that clear? To use the abilities. So figurative language, bestow my goods. Clear way of speaking, use my abilities. Okay, the goods that I have. Okay, let's go on. First Corinthians 13:3. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor. Well, if you check a good translation, the poor is italicized. That means it is not there. Okay, so that poor is not there. It's italicized. Okay, so let's go on. So it says to feed the poor. So we know that it is to feed. Yeah. So in other words, it is to feed. Right. So to feed who? Well, we don't know yet because that poor there was inserted by the translators. So, and though I give my body to be burned, right? I give my body to be burned and have not charity. Okay. So watch that. I give my body, okay, to be burned, right? And then it says, I have not charity. Of course, so the first thing that should startle the reader will be what? You give your body to the bond, right? So if you take it literally, you give your body to the bond, right? Give my body to the bond. Of course, from what we just explained now, what did he first start with? He started with my goods, okay? What he called my goods, okay, it now refers to as my body. Is that clear? So my body refers to the resources that I house. Is that clear? So you get it now. So my body then will refer to the ability of tongues and the ability of prophecy. Yes, so you refer to the ability of tongues and the ability of prophecy. Well, you following me still? Don't bail on me yet. So when it says my body there, is not necessarily talking about his physical body, because from verse 1, he's been talking about the things of the spirit. In chapter 12, he has told us concerning the things of the spirit. Right? So from 1 Corinthians 12, we know that Paul has been discussing. Yeah, he has been discussing spirituals. Okay, spirituals, or which means the things of the spirit. Don't forget. Okay, and we found out that the abilities or the gifts, okay, they are of the spirit. So when Paul says, if I give my goods, it means my resources, what I can bless others by. When he now says my body, he's still just using a different terminology to talk about the resources. So he says, I give my body to be burned and have no charity. Now, this is quite an interesting one. So, give my body to be burned and have not charity. Yeah, have not charity. Well, that's quite interesting. Give my body to be burned and have not charity. In other words, a person can appear. So a person can appear sacrificial. Okay, so they appear sacrificial, but they are not. They are not being sacrificial. So they are appearing to be, but they are not really being sacrificial. Right now, let's go on again. Let's go on again. In other words, what Paul is saying is this: What Paul is saying is, okay, a man, okay, could do those things that you will normally associate with love. Is that clear? So things that are normally associated with love, yet what is being displayed or demonstrated is not love. Look at that. What is so it appears to be sacrificial, but it is not sacrificial, right? So, in other words, a person could take an action. What is this action? Oh, give my goods. Again, what will it be to give my goods? It will be to use the abilities of the Spirit. Is that clear? It will be to use the abilities of the Spirit. Well, so a person can use the abilities of the Spirit and is not a benefit. Is what he's saying. It's not a benefit, okay, to others. It is not a sacrifice that others can benefit from. Okay, so it's not a benefit to others. Well, let's even try and investigate a little bit more. What is Paul talking about when he says, "I give my body to the bond and I have not give my body to the bond"? Well, if you look at that First Corinthians 13, yes, and verse 3. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to the bond and have not charity. What's the key thing in verse 3? It is have not charity. So there's an action, but have not charity. So there's an action, right? But the actor, right? So, but actor does not have charity. Are you following? So the actor does not have charity. This is important. The actor does not have charity, and so there are things that we must pay attention to here. Well, in other words, Paul is trying to say, beyond the action, watch out for love. So there's action and then there's love. So let's go on. In First Corinthians 33, and though I give my body to the bond and have not charity, right? And have not charity. Well, if you want to pay a little bit more attention to that text, I will just read now in First Corinthians and chapter 13 and verse 3. One more time. So I'm trying to go a little bit slower tonight because we want to cover some important territory. Now, so it says here, it says, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profited me. You see that expression, it profited me. Yeah, when it says it profited me, right? Again, it is just one word in the Greek. Yeah, it's just one Greek word. Yeah. So what does the word mean when it says it profited me? Yeah. See that expression, it profited me. What it means actually is to give profit or to assist or to give advantage. One more time. So the word means to give benefit, okay, or assistance. Yes, to give assistance, to give benefit, or to give advantage. So it's assist, okay, or to give advantage. This is important. One more time. So it is to give benefit, or to give assistance, or to give advantage. My dear friend, when we talk about the things of the Spirit, and is being exercised, who is it being exercised for? Come back to First Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 7. Yeah, First Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 7. I'm going to read again. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal. So in other words, the spirituals, right, is for the profit or benefit, right, of others, right? It's for the benefit of others. Come to First Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 6 quickly. First Corinthians 14. Let's go to verse 6. Now, brethren, if I come unto you, can you see? So there is I, okay? There's coming to you. Watch carefully. So I come into you speaking with tongues. So that means I come speaking, right, with tongues. And I'm coming to you. That means I'm coming with a message. Is that clear? So it now says here, what shall I profit you? First Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 6. First Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 6. It says, what shall I, right, profit you? Right? I want you to get it again. What shall I, right? I come unto you, speaking with tongues. What shall I profit you? Right? So there is, let me ask you one more time. It says, what shall I profit you? So who gets the profit, the speaker or the audience? Well, so it is not the speaker, right, that gets the benefit, right, that gets the profit. Actually, it is the audience, okay, is the audience, right, that should get, yeah, that should get the benefit. Are we there? So according to Paul, then, when the things of the spirit are exercised in the church, it is the audience that should get the benefit. Yeah. So profit you. Okay. Now let's go down again to verse look at verse 5. First Corinthians 14:5. I would that you all speak with tongues. First Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 5. What does it say? It says, I would that you all speak with tongues, but rather that you prophesy, for greater is he that prophesied than he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret. Okay, let's go on. So the speaker in tongues, okay, so the speaker in tongues is interpreting. Why? Yeah. So why? Why is the speaker in tongues interpreting? From verse 5, it says, except he interpret, that the church may receive edifying. So who gets the benefits? It says the church may receive. What do they receive? Edifying. So that means the prophet, okay, the prophet is received by the audience. Okay, I could go on and on. So therefore, we can go back to First Corinthians and chapter 13 and verse 3. We can go back one more time. So when 13 First Corinthians 13 verse 3, when it says, I'm going to read it one more time. Let's read it again. First Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 3. And though I bestow my goods to feed the poor, I give my body. Can you see? Look at it one more time. So I bestow. Who do I bestow it to? It should be to the audience. Is that correct? It should be to the audience. That is the intention, right? It is to be to the audience. If I give my body, so I give my body. Why? To who? It should be to the audience. Yeah, it should be to the audience. It now says here, and have not love or charity, it profits me nothing. So who is to get the profits? It is the audience, right? So when it says it profits me, number one, right? In the Greek, right, there is no me there, right? So in the Greek, there is no me. Yeah. What there is profit. How do you choose the pronoun? So you choose the pronoun by understanding this text. Yeah. So you choose the pronoun from context. So in the context of spirituals, right? Who gets the benefits? Yeah, it is the audience. So it's the audience that gets the benefits. One more time. It's the audience that gets the benefits. I need to say that one more time. So therefore, when the translator said it profited me, right? They added that was me. So it should be it profited nothing. Yeah. So the text should read, right? Because there's no me in the Greek. So instead of it profited me, right, nothing, it should be it profited nothing. If you want to put in a pronoun, it would be it does not profit the audience. It doesn't benefit others. Yes. So if you want the pronoun, then it should be the audience are not getting benefit. The audience are not getting benefit. Are you following now? So it's the audience that do not get any benefits. Is that clear? Okay. So they are not assisted, they're not given an advantage, right? On and on. Now, so let us go a bit further back into that First Corinthians and chapter 13 and verse 3 again. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned. You see that expression in First Corinthians 13:3, I give my body to be burned. Because, my dear friends, if somebody gives their body to be burned, we've explained what the body is, by the way, but look, I give my body to be burned. You will normally say, if a person gives their body to be burned, then that has to be that they love, right? So, when it says I give my body to the bone, right? What should happen is it assumes love, yeah. But let's look at it carefully. Read the next verse 4. Charity suffers long, right? Remember, I have no charity. Although I gave my body to God, I have no charity. That means, right? When I gave, right? So I gave without long suffering. Is that clear now? So when it says, because it says, I gave my body to the bone, but I had not charity. That means I gave, but without love or without long suffering. You get it now? It's without long suffering. Let's read on in verse 4. Charity is kind. That means I gave without kindness. Okay, so I gave without kindness. Firstly, no long suffering. Now I'm not kind. Kind towards who? I'm not kind towards the audience. Yeah. It now says here, charity envieth not. That means I gave with envy. Is that clear? So I gave with envy, which means I'm being competitive, right? Or I'm practicing jealousy, right? So I gave with envy, right? From competition, not to bless. Okay. Now it says in verse 4, charity wanted not itself. Okay, it's not puffed up. So that means charity is not proud. So I gave, but with pride. Is that clear? So I gave, but with pride. But with being puffed up. Is that clear now? So I gave being puffed up, or you can say I gave to boast. Is that clear now? So I gave, but I gave to boast. Yeah, so I gave to boast. We are picking apart what First Corinthians 13:3 is really saying. So I gave, but I gave to boast, to the boastful. I gave to the boastful. So that's what is really going on there. Let's go on. Let's read verse 5. Verse 5 then says, does not behave itself unsimilarly. Well, so that means I gave, but I wasn't acting or behaving right. Yeah. So I gave, but without acting correctly. I was acting, but I was acting incorrectly. Right. Then it says in verse 5, seeketh not our own. Can you see now? So that means vainglory. So I gave, yeah, but it was self-centered. Yeah. So that means when I gave, but from a self-centered perspective. In other words, when I gave, I had me in mind, right? So, in other words, when I acted, right, it was for my own benefit, right, and not for others. I didn't have others in my mind, although I was with others. Is that clear? So, we can now go back and read that First Corinthians 13:3 very well. So when it says in First Corinthians 13:3, I give my body to the bond and have no charity, it simply means, right, that bond. What is that bond? When it says I give my body to the bond, so the bonding, right? So the bonding then is it means to lack long suffering. Are you getting it now? So to bond in that place, right, is to lack long suffering, right? Is to lack kindness. That is what it means to bond. So lack, one more time. I want you to get it, right? So it's to lack long suffering, is to lack kindness. Yeah, to lack kindness. This is very important. They are lacking long suffering, they are lacking kindness. What else is going on? Well, they are also being boastful. So is to lack long suffering, is to lack kindness, is to be boastful. Is that clear? So it's to be boastful. That is what the text is talking about. So, in other words, the person who is acting from a boastful, competitive, envious, lacking kindness, lacking long suffering perspective. The person is given, but the person is given without love. Is that clear? Okay, so that means to bond will be, oh, I am taking my action, yeah, but I am thinking of self. Is that clear? So I am acting, okay, but from the benefit of self. Yeah, it's from the benefit of self and not for anything else. It's just for my benefit, right? So okay, so let's look at it one more time. We've explained that when what Paul is talking about from verse 1. Look at from verse 1 again, please. First Corinthians 31. Though I speak with the tongues of men. So First Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1 is about tongues. Is that clear? It's about tongues. You must be clear about this. 13:1 is about the ability of tongues, the vocal ability of tongues. So when it says, "Oh, I give my body," right? It's number one, the vocal ability of tongues. So what is given? Right? When it says I give my goods, it means I give tongue, I give prophecy. Is that clear? Right? But then the verse 3 is now saying how, right? So First Corinthians and chapter 13, verse 3 is now saying, oh, when tongues was given, okay, in verse 1, how it was, read verse 1 again, without love. It was without love. Okay, and we've seen that without love means lacking in long suffering, lacking in kindness, or being done to be boastful. Okay, are you following? So we've just studied that it means lacking long suffering, lacking kindness, to be boastful. So all that the person is concerned about is just to boast. Then Paul also then used the terminology of my body, that I give my body. Right? What is the body referring to? It's referring to what is in the temple, because the body is a temple, right? So the body is the temple, yeah, because Paul has said in First Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. Look at it. Let's look at it together. First Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. What does it say? It says, and I read, what? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you? Is that clear? So when Paul then says in 1 Corinthians 13:3, I give my body, he's talking about where the things of the Spirit are seen. Yeah. So where the things of the Spirit, where they flow from the temple. Yeah, where they flow from. Yeah, which is the temple of the Spirit, because the body is the temple of the Spirit. Are you following now? So Paul is saying, if I give my body to the bonds, so which means I have the abilities of the Spirit, right? But I use it to be born with them, mean, right? I use it to boast. You understand? So I'm exercising it, yeah, in order. So I have the abilities, no doubt, but I'm exercising, yeah, it to boast, to think about self. Yeah, I have the abilities of the Spirit, yeah, but what is on my mind is me. Is that clear? So I'm using it to boast, right? All that's about is me, myself, and I. Now, so, what does that mean? It means that the things of the Spirit, well, can be exercised apart from love. Yes? So, when it is exercised apart from love, what then happens? There is no profit. First Corinthians 13 and verse 3. Is that clear? There is no profit. Yeah. So, what should be for the profit of all, right? So, what should be for the profit of all now is exercised, right, in a way, or is used in a way, to make it easy. So, is used in a way that robs others, of benefit. Is that clear? It robs others of benefit. That is quite interesting. That means that the abilities of the Spirit require, right, to be exercised, right, in love in order to bless people, right? To bless people. If love is missing, the same abilities can be misused to promote self. Yeah. So when love is absent, right, the abilities of the Spirit will still be present. Yes. So the abilities of the Spirit, yeah, they will be present. One more time, right? They will be present. Why? The Spirit is present. So the ability of the Spirit will be present simply because the Spirit is present, and the believer's body is a temple of the Spirit, right? But the use, well, will glorify self. It will glorify self and rob others of benefit. Yes, it can rob others of benefit. Hold on. Can it? Anyway, let's go on. So that means the things of the Spirit require to be exercised in love in order for people to be blessed. Okay, now I want you to come back with me to First Corinthians and chapter uh, um, let's for now just continue to go on. I'm going to go to, so we just finished verse 4. So we're going to go a little bit further, and this time around we're going to go into, let's go to verse 8. Let's go to verse 8. So verse 8, right? Because what has been said in verse 4, right? So from verse 4, we've used 4, 5, and 6 to explain tonight. Now, but look at verse 8. Charity never faileth. Listen very carefully. All right, charity then, it says, never faileth. Let's read on. What's charity? That's love. So charity never faileth. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. Okay. Now, let's look at verse 8 in a little bit more detail. Let me read it one more time. Charity never faileth. Well, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. That's First Corinthians and chapter 13 and verse 8. Let's look at the words again. First Corinthians 13 and verse 8. It says, charity never faileth. Whether prophecies, they shall fail. You see that expression, they shall fail. It means when it says they shall fail, it means it will actually be idle, unemployed. Listen very carefully. So when it says they shall fail, right, that expression they shall fail is one word in the Greek. Yeah, it's just one Greek word, and it means to make idle. Is that clear? So when it says shall fail, it means it is rendered idle. Yeah. So it is made inefficient. To make idle, right, or inefficient. That's what the word means. To make idle or inefficient. So there should be an efficiency, but the efficiency is missing. Okay, one more time. So the efficiency, right, is missing. Okay. So when it says, let's look at it one more time. When it says, whether there be prophecies, they shall fail, is saying that prophecies, okay, should have, right, a use, right, but it becomes unemployed for that use. You understand? So it becomes unemployed, okay, for the use intended by God. Is that clear? Or it becomes ineffective. That's what it means. It becomes ineffective. Remember, we've been looking tonight, what should be the effect of the Spirit for the profit of all. Don't forget. So to become ineffective means the prophecy, right, does not, give benefit to the audience. Is that clear? The things spoken do not give audience, do not give a benefit to the audience. When it says prophecies shall fail, my friend, it is not talking about prophecies are ending. No. It's the word fail as used there, right? In the, if you check your concordance, it means to render idle, unemployed, right? Right. So, in other words, there is to have no further efficiency. So, there's an efficiency that is actually missing. Is that clear? So, again, that's the word that is used there. Right now, let's come again to that First Corinthians when it says they shall fail. One word. It means will not be effective, will not be employed. Okay. It says whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Right. So it talked about prophecy and it talked about tongues. It says they shall cease. Can you see? So they shall cease. Now that expression again, when it says they shall cease, if you look at it in your concordance, it is one word, right? It is one word rendered they shall cease. What does the word mean? Well, that word mean, it says it is no longer, right? It is no longer, it's being restrained, right? So something should happen is not happening. That's what to restrain something, right? So it's talking about restrain, right? So you get, so it's been restrained. The thing, so it's not stirred, right? It's not stirred. Now, in other words, something should happen, but it is not happening, right? So it is that's the use of that word. They shall cease. Well, hold on. It just used prophecy and tongues. We ask ourselves, what has Paul, right? What has Paul said about prophecy, right, and tongues? Well, if we go back to First Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1, he said something about tongues. Let's read it. So First Corinthians 13 and verse 1. We're trying to understand verse 8. Verse 1 says, though I speak with the tongues of men. So verse 1 is talking about speak with tongues. Speak with tongues will mean to use tongues, right? To use tongues. How? It says speak with the tongues of men, angels. That means to use tongues to talk to men, to bring a message. So it's to use tongues to bring a message. Okay. Now remember, it says, and have not charity. Can you see now? And have not. So what is being talked about is tongues without charity. So what is restrained is not tongues, but charity. So charity is restrained. You see. So charity is restrained, or charity is actually not not loosed, not active. So charity is not active. Then what happens? It says, I'm a sounding brass or a tingling cymbal. Right? So, in other words, what it's talking about is not tongues coming to an end, but that tongues where love has ended. Can you see that? So, where love, right, has ended. Or, in other words, the user, the person, the minister, right, in tongues is lacking love. Is that clear? So he is using tongues lacking love. It profits nothing. Now, you come with me to 1 Corinthians 13:2. You then see Paul talk about prophecy. 1 Corinthians 13:2. Look at 13:2. Before we even go to 13:2, we're going to come back to it. Let's read 13:2. 13:2. Look at 1 Corinthians 13:2. I read and look at what it says. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 2. I read, and though I have the gift of prophecy. Is that clear? So Paul is talking about, right, speaking a prophecy. In verse 1, speaking a tongue. right, now is speaking a prophecy. Hold on. Go to First Corinthians and chapter 14 to see something very quickly. First Corinthians chapter 14, look at verse 3. It says, he that prophesieth, can you see it? Speaketh unto men to edification. Why is he speaking? Right? Number one, to prophesy is to address men. Can you see it now? So, in other words, he is ministering. Is that clear? What is he supposed to minister? Is to minister edification. Right? That's the benefit. Right? So that is the benefit. Okay. Now, what is 1 Corinthians 13:2 now telling us? Let's go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 2. So it says, and I read one more time, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 2. I read, it says, and though I have the gift of prophecy, understand all mysteries or knowledge, to have all faith so I can move mountains, and have not charity. Can you see now? So he's speaking of prophecy and have not charity. Have not charity. So in other words, he's talking about prophecy without charity. He has not charity. So it is the charity that has not been allowed to be expressed. Are you following me now? So, in other words, what actually was not given expression was love. All the person asked was the ability. Yeah. So, again, what is Paul talking about? Paul is talking about the absence of love. That's what ceased. That's what stopped. That's what was restrained. That's what was missing. That's what was lacking. Is that clear? So, in other words, what Paul is saying is when love, right, is absent, right, or ceased, let's put it that way, then tongues will not do his job, or prophecy will not do his job, right? So, when love is absent, then prophecy, right, or love, or tongue, sorry, yeah, will be ineffective. It will be ineffective. Right? Because what brings effectiveness is love. Because what love is what thinks about others. Is that clear? So love thinks about others, not self. So it's able to minister to them. If that is absent, then the person, right? So the saint with prophecy then can be what? Selfish. He's just thinking about himself. Okay, now let me say one more time. So Paul is not talking about, oh, somebody says, you see, Paul is saying that tongues have ceased. The age of miracles is over. No. We just explained it now. Right? There's no age of miracle that is over. It's simply men that are acting but without charity. They are bringing their goods but without charity. Yeah. So I want you to get that. Very important. So in 1 Corinthians and chapter 13. So when Paul said, when Paul, let's state it in very clear terms then. So the expression, let's go back to verse 8. Charity never fails, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. So he's saying that there are prophecies that fail. What are those? They are the prophecies without love. Do you understand now? Prophecies, right, without love. Let me do it another way. Look at verse 8 again. Love never fails. Charity. So what is it that never fails? Charity. So charity never fails. Now, what if I have prophecy, right, but no charity? It means I have prophecies, right, without that thing that doesn't fail. You understand? So I have prophecy, right, without that which never fails. What will happen? The prophecies lack love. I have a love deficiency. It's not the prophecy that is a problem. It's the person exercising the prophecy. Is that clear now? So prophecy is good, right? Prophecy is good. The saint that is administering it. Is that clear now? So the saint as administering prophecy, right, might lack love. Then what will happen is he will use prophecy, okay, to turn attention on himself. So turn attention on self. Is that clear? Right? So when Paul talks about tongues shall cease. What is the tongues that shall cease? Is the tongues in 1 Corinthians 13:1. It is tongues without charity. Yes? So tongues that cease is tongues without charity, which is covered in verse 1. Yeah. So it is the use of tongues, okay, as in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1. Yeah. So should your prophecy, should it fail? No. Your prophecy should, when it says fail, it means should you exercise prophecy without love? No. Yes. Are you getting it now? So should your prophecy, okay, should it fail? Meaning, in plain language, should you, right, use or minister prophecy, okay, in a way that lacks love? The answer is no. You should not, right? Rather, understanding that charity never fails, take that which never fails, right, and add it to the prophecy. That's the point. So take charity, right, which never fails, okay, and then add it to the ability of the Spirit. Yeah, the ability of the Spirit. Well, anyway, so to the ability of the Spirit. Look, just so it is clear, Paul's emphasis. Come back to 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1. Look at it again. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity. Verse 1. So there is a have not charity. Look at verse 2. Though I have the gifts of prophecy, understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so I can move mountains, and I have not charity. Can you see verse 1? Have not charity. Verse 2, have not charity. Look at verse 3. And though I bestow all my goods, the goods referring to the tongues, the prophecies, the abilities of the Spirit, yeah, to feed. Right now, so in this case, who is feeding? The person who is exercising is trying to use it for himself. Yes, so he's feeding himself. Now, anyway, and though I give my body, yeah, to the bond, yeah, so that means I exercise the abilities in pride, puffed up, without long suffering, without kindness. You say, I have no charity. Can you see? It profits nothing. It's not me. It profits nothing. So nobody benefits. The people do not benefit. Is that clear? So what is the emphasis of Paul? Apart from abilities, so you can see that in 1 Corinthians 13:1, we see the abilities of the Spirit, without a doubt. In 1 Corinthians 13:2, so we see the abilities of the Spirit. In 13:2, it's called prophecy, it's called faith, it's called, right? So all those, the same list in 1 Corinthians 12. In 1 Corinthians 13:1, it is called tongues. Yeah, good. Now, so those are abilities of the Spirit. In 1 Corinthians 13 and verse 3, it is then called my goods. Same thing, really. So abilities of the Spirit, right, which is called my goods or my body. Is that clear? And it's still referring to all those things. So we see ability, 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 ability. Then we now see also have no love, have no love, have no love, have no love. Is that clear? So in other words, the ability of the Spirit exercised without love, right, means that ability will fail to benefit the saints. Is that clear now? Right? So let me see one more time. So the abilities of the Spirit, like prophecy, yeah, I need to say that one more time. So the abilities of the Spirit, okay, like prophecy, right, can fail. Okay, they can fail to benefit the audience, right? It can fail to benefit the audience. Why? When love is missing. So when love is missing, then it can fail to benefit the audience. For example, you can understand how if somebody comes speaking with tongues, look at it, for example, look at 1 Corinthians 14:6, and I'm going to have to stop tonight. 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 6. I read. It says, and I read, now, brethren, if I come to you speaking with tongues, can you see? I came to you. What shall I profit you, except I speak by revelation, by knowledge, by prophesying, or by doctrine? So, can you see? So, I can come with the ability of the Spirit, right? The ability of the Spirit, and the ability is genuine, right? So, the ability is genuine, it's not fake. However, but I fail to bring you profit. Yeah, and First Corinthians 13 then says it will be when love is lacking. First Corinthians 13 would then be without love. Is that clear? Well, guys, it's been a privilege to bring to you the Word of God tonight. We will continue tomorrow. What do I want you to do? Get somebody, sit down with somebody, go over the territory that we covered tonight. Go over the territory that we covered tonight. Go over it painstakingly. Go over it again and again. And don't forget that together, you and I will take the gospel to the ends of the earth.